Edgar Allan Poe, the master of Gothic horror, died under mysterious circumstances that remain unsolved to this day. But what really happened in those final, fateful hours? October 3rd, 1849. Baltimore, a quiet city, witnesses a strange and unsettling event. A man is found wandering the streets, confused and muttering incoherently. His condition is dire, disoriented, dressed in clothes that are clearly not his own. He is on the brink of physical and mental collapse. This man, about to embark on the final days of his life, is none other than Edgar Allan Poe, the master of macabre stories, the creator of some of the most disturbing and dark tales ever written. But this time, Poe isn't writing. He is the protagonist of his own story. A dark and impenetrable mystery begins to unfold, and the questions emerge. How did he get there? What led him to this deplorable state? And more importantly, what happened to Poe in the days leading up to his death? The genius who gave us The Raven, The Telltale Heart, and The Fall of the House of Usher was now living his own personal nightmare. His death became one of the greatest enigmas in literary history, a tragedy wrapped in shadows, full of theories but with no definitive answers. Edgar Allan Poe was no stranger to suffering. From an early age, his life was marked by tragedy. Orphaned at 3, he lost his parents to tuberculosis. Taken in by the Allan family, his relationship with his adoptive father was fraught with conflict and tension. Poe, always a restless and tormented soul, found solace in literature, where his dark stories reflected the chaos and inner pain he carried. He didn't just write about death, he knew it intimately. Death followed him closely. His wife, Virginia, died prematurely of tuberculosis, devastating Poe and driving him deeper into his own emotional torment. His finances were in ruins, his health was failing, and his battle with alcohol was widely known. This man, who had masterfully explored psychological terror and the fragility of the human mind in his works, now seemed to be living his own Gothic tale, full of tragedies and shadows. In late September 1849, Poe was in Richmond, Virginia, where he had spent some time. He was reportedly in good health and was on his way to Philadelphia, where he hoped to start a new chapter in his life. Poe intended to take on a new job as an editor. He had left behind the ghosts of Richmond, but as he boarded the train heading north, little did he know that his journey would not end as planned. On September 27th, he left Richmond, and then, inexplicably, he disappeared. No one knew where Poe was for the following days. He never reached his destination, and the next time he was seen, he was wandering the streets of Baltimore 6 days later. At that time, Baltimore was a city full of hidden dangers. He was found near a tavern known for its rowdy patrons. Was Poe lost, or had someone taken him there? What happened in those 6 days remains a mystery, a gap never filled. The only certainty? Something terrible had happened to Poe, something that left him on the brink of death. When Poe was found, he was dressed in clothes that didn't belong to him. It was common for him to dress elegantly, but at that moment, he wore old, ill-fitting clothes, as if they belonged to someone else. Whose clothes were these? And how did Poe, a man not known for his wealth, end up in such a state of abandonment? Those who found him reported that he was delirious, unable to form coherent thoughts. He was rushed to Washington College Hospital, where he would spend his final days. But his confusion persisted, and he could barely explain how he had gotten into that situation. In between fits of delirium, Poe called out for someone. Reynolds, a name he repeated over and over. But to this day, no one knows who Reynolds was. Was it a friend, an enemy, or perhaps a ghost in Poe's troubled mind? The identity of Reynolds is one of the many mysteries surrounding Poe's death. Since his death, countless theories have emerged to explain what might have happened to Poe. One of the most popular is the cooping theory, a practice common at the time, especially during elections. Cooping involved kidnapping individuals, intoxicating or drugging them, and forcing them to vote repeatedly under different disguises. Could this explain Poe's strange clothing? Was he a victim of corrupt politicians? Others believe that alcoholism played a role in his death. Poe had struggled with addiction for much of his life. Some witnesses claimed to have seen him drunk before he disappeared. But here's the enigma. In the months leading up to his death, Poe had reportedly stopped drinking, seeking a more sober life. And then there's the theory of poisoning. Some speculate that Poe might have been poisoned by enemies or by accident. At the time, certain medicines and substances could cause symptoms similar to those Poe displayed. Others suggest illnesses, like rabies, which could also explain his delirium and rapid health decline. A medical analysis conducted in 1996 by a specialist suggested that Poe's symptoms could have been caused by rabies. He showed no signs of animal bites, but rabies can, in rare cases, be transmitted through other means. But without proper medical records, all these theories remain just that, theories. His death certificate disappeared, and with it, any hope of finding a definitive answer. In the days following his hospitalization, Poe remained in a state of delirium. He spoke incoherently, unable to clearly communicate with doctors and nurses. His physical and mental state rapidly deteriorated. And then, on October 7, 1849, Poe died. His last words were a whisper, "Lord, help my poor soul." A simple phrase, but one loaded with deep anguish, as if he were asking for help not just for his weakened body, but for his troubled soul. His final words are almost poetic, fitting for someone who spent his life exploring the mysteries of the human mind, the border between sanity and madness, between life and death. Even in death, Edgar Allan Poe remains an enigma. The man who gave us some of the most haunting works in world literature left without providing answers about his own tragic end. Like in his darkest tales, his death is shrouded in doubt, theories, and a veil of mystery that has never been fully lifted. Perhaps it is fitting that Poe's fate mirrors the themes he explored in his writing: the uncertainty of life, the fear of the unknown, and the desire to control what, in the end, is uncontrollable: our own mortality. What happened to Edgar Allan Poe in the days leading up to his death? Was he the victim of a conspiracy? Or did the dark genius finally succumb to his own internal tragedies? His name, immortalized in literature, continues to echo, just as the mystery of his death continues to intrigue us. We may never know the truth, but like any great mystery, the fascination lies in the search for answers. Edgar Allan Poe lives on, not only in his writings, but in the mystery he left behind. A mystery that, to this day, haunts us. Was Poe's death a tragic accident, a victim of foul play, or something far more sinister? The truth remains elusive, or is it waiting to be discovered?